Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Why I Stay podcast. I hope that you enjoy this interview I've got here with Emily Shipley. Emily, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you.
How you doing today?
I'm doing well. How are you doing?
Happy enough. We were talking a little bit
Good enough.
earlier.
Yeah.
Emily got twins, guys. So when she says good, it's probably one of your worst day ever, worst days ever, and one of her best days. So take it with a grain of salt.
Yeah.
All right. So the way that we're going to do this podcast is I want to be able to get to know the ward members as quickly and as deeply as possible. And I don't know how that's necessarily going to work out, but I've got a list of rapid fire questions for Emily here, and I'm excited to hear her answers. Emily, are you ready for the rapid fire questions?
Absolutely.
All right. What's your full name?
Emily Olson Shipley.
How old are you?
I'm 35.
What's your favorite food?
It varies day to day. I could not land on this. So today I'm just going to say it's what I made for lunch, which was a great grilled cheese sandwich.
Oh, yum. Do you add anything other than cheese?
I put ham on it today. Sometimes I put tomato, kind of depends on what I've got in the fridge, to go with it.
Yeah, I'm all about the Dijon mustard with my grilled cheese.
Yeah, and Gruyere and Dijon mustard, marriage made in heaven.
Totally. All right. Favorite TV show or movie?
I would say based on rewatch value, The Office. I watch The Office like every day of my life almost, and I feel like I have the series memorized. But as far as like great artistic, works of art, as far as TV goes, something like Breaking Bad is probably my favorite. So I have like a 2-for question on that. So
that's fine. I'm cool with that.
For what it is.
What is your current hobby?
Current hobby is wreath making. I decided that I'm going to learn how to make cute wreaths when I moved here to Massachusetts, and everybody has really cute stoops for the holiday and for like the fall.
They do.
In California, we don't really have much of a fall season. We have it for about 2 weeks, but right now it's over 100 degrees where I come from. And so like people have their fall decorations out, but like they're suffering in the sun. And I don't know. I just came here and I was like, it's time to craft. I live in Massachusetts. This is it. And so I made myself a fall wreath that I'm really proud of.
All right. We're going to add the picture of the fall wreath. We'll have your picture on this podcast and then also the fall wreath, like right next to you. Okay. Awesome. Okay. What was your favorite or is your favorite calling that you've ever had?
Oh, probably as a missionary, right? That's gotta be my favorite, is the fact that I voluntarily went on a mission and liked where I went and liked what I did for a year and a half. So I'm going to say missionary. And second to that is teaching of any capacity.
I never served a mission, but I think it's a very lucky and rare thing that you liked where you went and had a good experience.
The stars aligned really nicely on the mission that I went on. Yeah, absolutely. That I can say that's my favorite calling.
Yeah, for sure.
The only one I volunteered for, incidentally. All the other ones have been asked, but the one I actually asked for has been my favorite. So that might say something about me.
That's interesting. Maybe you should start thinking about the next calling that you'd like to have and just approach the bishop.
Tensions out there.
Yeah. What is a controversial opinion that you hold? I mean, we can go politics, but let's not go politics.
So I was talking to my husband about this and he could not come up with anything. He just started listing things that I don't like. And I was like, thanks. I don't like a lot of things, I guess. But the thing that I landed on in that list was that I don't really like listening to music in the car. I like silence, conversation, or podcast. But I have to listen to someone else. I can't listen to music anymore for some reason.
So you said anymore. Did it used to be that you could listen to music?
Yeah, I think that, so this is where it comes from.
Okay, tell me.
Shortly before my mission, I had the worst breakup of my life. This is not what sent me on a mission, but it happened.
Okay.
And every song about love was like 1,000 stabs to the heart. And so
of course,
I had this horrible long commute to work while I was waiting to go. And I was working this job and I was like, everything is horrible. And I would drive to work and I would just listen to the radio. And by the time I got to work, I'd be like a puddle.
Of course.
So eventually I was like, no more music. And I started listening to talk radio as a result of this stupid breakup. And I've never gone back. Not because it makes me sad, but now I'm just like, I don't really want this in my car. And look what he did to me.
Look what he did. If he ever hears this podcast, let me tell him. I'm just kidding. I have a few choice words for that man.
Music out of my life.
All right. So what is your biggest dream?
Stability, man. At this point, age 35 is to achieve emotional, financial, physical stability.
You have a 5-year plan for that? For those.
And then my husband decided he needed to go to dental school.
Oh,
New 5-year plan will be the result of our stay here in Massachusetts, and that's fine. It'll be a better 5-year plan.
yeah.
But stability is right now the biggest dream, where like I can wake up every day and have like a sort of predictable pattern for my life, which is so stupid because I have children that are like crazy, right?
I
The
think
thing I
that's
crave
perfect.
the most is the thing that is the most elusive in the state of my life right now.
I asked for your biggest dream. I didn't ask for your smallest dream. I asked for the biggest one. So
Right, it's big.
perfect. And I think that's something that a lot of people in this ward will be able to relate to for sure. What is something about you that is the same now as it was when you were in high school?
So I am still someone who is pretty confident in the correctness of my opinion if I feel like I have enough evidence for it.
Mm-hmm.
And I have been like this since I was in high school, if not before. And like, this is not to say that I can't be corrected on something, but I was kind of a challenger in high school when I was convinced that I was right. And I had to be like in that exact space of knowing like, no, there's counter evidence to whatever is being said here. And I'm going to bring it up and I'm going to bring it to that person's attention.
Mm.
There has to be something that can be said here. I'm going to say it. That's kind of the streak of me that is alive from high school.
All right. So moving from those rapid fire questions, I've just got a couple questions that I want to explore with you about your membership in the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints and what it's meant to you and stories that have come up in your life, just to try and build bridges and relate to each other. So let's start with number 1. What is your most embarrassing moment from your church experience? And you're smiling. I'm excited for this.
So it's actually one that has continuously challenged me when I respond back, or like when I think back to what happened and how this was embarrassing. So I'm going to try and frame it right. So again, the mission, right? You're there, year and a half, you give your life to it. And by the end, you're like, please don't send me home. I was one of those missionaries who was like, I can extend. Do you want me to extend? And they were like, no, your visa's expiring.
Go home.
You need to go home, Sister Olson. And so I'm in my like exit interview with my mission president. I was understandably pretty emotional about like leaving, and I was worried about what would happen after the mission and would I like, still be as good a person as I was for that year and a half. And I remember I have this vivid memory of sitting in his office crying and him not looking at me and like looking in his day planner and being like, yep, we got a lot of changes coming up in the mission. And he was kind of like business as usual. And so I watched him not respond to me. And I got just like, I felt so embarrassed. I just wanted to like crawl under the desk and be like, send me home this way. I'm not even going to get on the plane. This is ridiculous. And it's like one of those moments where I like made myself vulnerable and hoped that it would be embraced. Like, you want your mission president to look you in the eye and say, the Lord accept your sacrifice. Like, of course he does. You've done great. We love you. You're going to do great after the mission. And I just didn't get that from that exit interview. And I had a really hard time for like years afterward. When I thought about it, I tried to like tamp it down because it kind of tainted what had happened for that year and a half with that level of embarrassment that I felt crying in front of my mission president. I'm fine now, but it is like a historically embarrassing thing that happened to me at church, or associated with church, I guess. And it's just this huge reminder also that like people are going to have like miscommunication and to be on totally different wavelengths in the same room. Even if you come from the same church tradition, you have the same testimonies, you believe in the same scriptures. You're not always going to be able to tap into the same like spiritual wavelength as the person you're with, but for goodness sake, make some eye contact, Yeah. Please try to validate your peers in the church, I guess, is the moral of that story.
I'm glad that you've been able to work through it. So actually, follow-up question with that. What would you say to somebody who might have had an experience like that with a church leader, be it a mission president or a bishop, that kind of keeps cropping up?
Mm-hmm.
what would you say to advise them to help them work through those difficult feelings?
Just a reminder not to place your faith in leadership or in authority. You place it in the Lord. Like you don't take your sacrifices or your soul, I guess, to a bishop. You don't take it to a stake president. You take it to your mission president. You take it to the Lord in prayer. And that is where you're going to find like the 100% I'm here and I'm listening, even if there's a delay, or, we can talk about whether or not the Lord answers prayers in a timely manner or in our manner, I guess. But I would say that like, just take it straight to the Lord and you'll never be disappointed.
And even first instance to take it to him. But then if you have an embarrassing experience, take that embarrassing experience to the Lord.
Exactly.
He gets that.
That'll be, I think, the thing that leaves you the most satisfied as far as resolving that problem.
Okay, so question number 2.
Mm-hmm.
When have you had to have courage in your discipleship?
When the exclusion policy for the children of gay couples was released in 2015, I remember reading about it and just feeling like my heart sink to my stomach. It just felt so wrong and so hurtful. And it was on the heels of the Obergefell decision passing and gay marriage being legalized in the United States, after the church had consistently said this is not something we'll support. And it's like, that's fine. I understand like the theological and the leadership reasoning behind this, but the policy of exclusion felt just horrible. Like I could never feel spiritually strong about this. And then when in the aftermath, it was announced like, no, this is like, we felt revelation to do this. It felt even more hurtful. And I had this like, how can I stay in this church if this is how we treat the, not just gay people, but like the children of gay people? And I went back and forth with it a lot. And I had to make this like conscientious decision that like, I'm going to stay and I'm going to continue being a disciple because I need to be someone who welcomes gay people when they are welcome in church. Like I need to be someone who can be there for when they return, if they can return. If we ever create a space for gay people, I want to be someone who can do that for them. But it was a really, really hard, tense few years before they ultimately rescinded the policy in the first place. Like, and that it probably caused more damage than good in the long run for people who just want to be able to get along with their neighbors at church, who are going to have same-sex attraction, who are going to have children who have same-sex attraction, and learning to just get along with it, and not exclude them from, the body of Christ. So when they removed it, it was a huge sigh of relief for me. And I was really glad that I had stayed that whole time, because I know thousands of members resigned their membership as a result of it. And I'm glad that I didn't do that, because now it's like, okay, I can keep working with the institution and seeing like what we can do to stay faithful and also include as many people as we can.
Yeah. And I'm not sure that stuff like this is going to be done with. These policies are, going to continue to come up and then be taken back, just about anything, right? Like forget LGBTQ, whatever, like there will be things in the future that all of us probably won't agree with to some degree or another.
Right.
And I think that that's really powerful that you've had this opportunity already to work through that and to choose to stay.
That's the title of the podcast, right? Like, what are you still doing in this church?
Right. Like,
okay. Like, well, let's see,
Yeah, exactly. I think it's a really powerful thing to share those experiences, not to try and say like, you should have problems with this too, but just say like, we're all going to have differing opinions about things. The prophet will, and I will, and you will, and your mission president will, but we've got to find a way to stay together, because what is unity? Like we're supposed to be one in Christ, and just because we have such different backgrounds, like how do we do that? Right. So I'm really glad that you brought that up about how you had, that definitely does take courage.
I should add, in addition to this, when that happened, I was teaching an English class, and I had 4 out gay males in that class that one semester, which is a disproportionate number of like the amount of gay people you usually see in a class. And shortly after the policy was announced, they found out that I was LDS. And I did not want to be the latest face of intolerance for these students. And so I just tried to be as genuine as I could with them, as upfront with them, because they were all like kind of close to me. Like I'm still friends with them. And the fact that I could maintain like good, healthy friendships with these young men who have gone on to like higher education and they're doing really good things with their lives. Like, I don't want them to think back and be like, yeah, I was friends with this one LDS woman once, but then I found out she didn't approve of my lifestyle and now I don't like her because she never really loved me. Like, it was really important for me for them to understand that, like, you know, I would fellowship them no matter what. I would be there for them as their mentor and also just as a fellow human being here on this planet who loves them.
All right, so let's get to this last of the exploratory questions. What is one experience that really increased your maturity in the gospel?
My whole experience of having children, I think, increased my maturity in so many ways, the way children do, but especially in the gospel. So I will kind of give you like the condensed version. So Will and I had infertility troubles for 3 years. We didn't really do much about it because of money. I got a much better job that allowed me to have good insurance to explore infertility and have it covered at least part of the way. So we ended up doing IVF. And coming to the conclusion that we would do IVF, I had, of course, asked the Lord for years why I wasn't getting pregnant. And I asked to be a mom. And I did the things, you know, I showed my faith. I did what I could do. And I felt like I had radio silence. So the Lord took like 3 years to get back to me. That's kind of how it felt. And when we finally had said, okay, we're going to do this, and we went to the temple about it, both of us had this very like clear impression that yes, this is it. This is the way you're going to have kids. I'm like, okay, thank you. Thank you for that answer after 3 years. Appreciate it. So we went in, everything was textbook. I had this like great experience with it. My doctor got like a perfect number of embryos out of me and put 2 in, both of them took, and I had a beautiful pregnancy. Like, I was like living life. It was great. I hardly had morning sickness. I was just a little bit tired and sore, but that was the worst of it. I was still doing yoga in the mornings. And at about 22 weeks, I had a scan, and they said they know my high risk doctor, because when you have twins, you're considered a high risk. My high risk OB told me that she noticed that my cervix was on the shorter side. So when you have babies in there, you want it to be nice and long so that there's space between you or between the baby and the outside world. And she said, okay, come back like in a week or 2, we're going to measure it again. And if it's short, she didn't tell me what would happen, but she just said, you don't want it to be shorter. So I went back thinking like, this will be fine. And it had shortened. And she said, you are going to go check yourself into the hospital and you are not leaving until your children are born. And I was 22 weeks and 6 days pregnant.
What?
They were barely viable, barely. So that was the end of my perfect pregnancy. After 3 years of trying to get pregnant and needing to do IVF and wondering like where God was in the middle of all this, I walked across the parking lot and I checked myself into the hospital. And I was going to be on bed rest in that hospital until they showed up. And what would happen was I would get monitored twice a day for contractions. Because when you have contractions, of course, you shorten further and you efface and then you dilate, right? That's the order of events. And so if I had too many contractions in like an hour, they would start like worrying and they would give me like a muscle relaxant. And then I would wait to see if that would stop the contractions. And of course, when you have twins and you're getting bigger and bigger, you have more contractions of the Braxton Hicks variety, right? So I was in the hospital for 3 months with these kids having scares like on a regular basis that they're on their way now. I am in preterm labor and they are only 26 weeks. I am in preterm labor and they are only 28 weeks. So talk about like spiritual maturity, like, you know, calling out for the Lord. I don't think I've ever prayed harder in my life than those nights I was in the hospital and like something was happening and I would sit there wondering like, and I'd like open up like a website and be like, what happens for premature babies born at this many weeks? And I would like Google to see like what I should expect if they showed up then. And it was literally like week by week counting down. And eventually, like the Lord took care of us and I did not go into preterm labor that whole time I was in the hospital. In fact, I made it to a scheduled C-section. Like my doctor scheduled a C-section for me. Once I cleared 32 weeks, the tone of everything changed. And my doctor was like, okay, you're probably going to be okay. But in case you're not, we're going to keep you here. And I made it to December 30th, 2019, only because I think of the like crazy amount of prayers that I said and the fasting and the prayers of my family and temple rolls. Like, I feel like the whole world got behind me on this. Anyone who knew that something was happening with me was like, what can we do? So the Lord blessed me with all of these helpers that I couldn't have imagined a better way for everyone, for a community to like step in and pick up the slack, because I had people bringing me food, visiting me weekly, getting us stuff for the kids. A family friend helped Will build this bassinet that we kept our kids in next to our bed when they were first born. Like, people showed up in like really tremendous ways. And I know it was all because like the Lord looked out for us, but it literally took 3 years getting there. So I would say that I have a matured understanding of like the way the Lord will like show you his will and like kind of let you figure things out before he steps in and says, okay, this is how it is. And then he'll let you figure a few more things out and then he'll intervene again. That's kind of how the pattern has been for me. Sorry, that was long.
No, that was like,
I
was like gripping the sides of my seat the entire time. Like,
yeah.
What's gonna happen? That sounds awful.
It was.
So I'm glad they're here. I'm glad they're safe. I'm glad you're sane still.
Yeah, right. And then I'm like a mother of twins and I'm like, what have I done? What have I gotten myself into?
Don't worry. They just gotta grow up a tiny bit and it'll be so much better.
Yeah.
At least that's what I hear. So all right, just to end this has been amazing. I'm so happy with how this has all gone. The final question that I'm asking everybody on this podcast is, why do you stay in the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints?
Because it's where I belong. And it's true. And that's like, I can't picture myself in any other place doing anything else, because I've had a few too many experiences that have shown me that it's true. And even if I struggle with elements of church culture or even policies and leadership sometimes, like even if I wonder like why so many people are allowed to be so imperfect, it's still the place for me, because I myself am just as imperfect as they are, and the Lord is merciful and he'll work it out. And like that's like the only reason I think I can give you that's like my most authentic, is because I belong here with everyone else.
Beautiful. Emily, thank you so much for your time tonight. I'm really excited to release this to the ward.
Goodbye. I'm really looking forward to meeting more people.
Yeah, I know. That you're like, oh, you can text me. Call my number is.
If you ever just like want to hang out with a couple of really mobile kids and a tired mom, hit me up.
Hey, that sounds awesome. I would love to do that. All right. Thank you so much, Emily.
No problem. Thank you.
All right, everyone. That was my interview with Emily Shipley. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. I'd just like to thank you guys all for tuning in to the Why I Stay podcast. And if you have anyone you think I should interview or you would like to be interviewed yourself, please reach out to Lindsay Clyde and get yourself on the schedule, because your voice needs to be heard. And a lot of people don't like to toot their own horn, so let me just toot it for you, okay? Hit me up and we'll make something happen. Anyway, I hope that you continue to develop your faith in Jesus Christ and build your testimony and share your light with those around you. And I hope you have a wonderful week. See you next time. Bye-bye.